Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we're going to get into 75 laws of a breakup. I've talked about this before. We're going to get a little deeper. I have about 98, no, over 100 laws to review here. I'm not going to do it in depth. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the concept of a law of a breakup and why I'm working on a new series involving that. Before I get into that, if you want to book a live coaching session, go to writemac.com. And if you would like to call in today, there might be some time. But we will get into that. But today's going to be more of an interactive thing where if you watch this later on, please let me know if you have some ideas for some different laws or situationships. So go to writemac.com if you want to book a live coaching session. If you don't find it useful and helpful, I will refund you. Stand on that. So what does it mean to have a law to a breakup? Okay. So let's just talk about that today. Welcome, Rob. Welcome, Sam. It's been a while, but not too long. So it's a common situation, right? So if anyone's ever read The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene, you're going through situations of power, right? You're breaking it down, not that, oh, this is the rule of power. Oh, this is how all breakups end up. This is how all people gain power. But when you really break down breakups and situationships, right? Situationships where someone's got, hey, I'm got into this new university. I got into a new university. I got into a university on the East Coast. Me and my girlfriend live in LA right now. And I don't know if this move's going to be good for me. That's a situationship. That's a crossroads that's going to affect the relationship in the future. And a lot of people make those moves blindly with faith and a misunderstanding that a new situation, a new crossroad, a new job, a new school, our relationship will overcome, love will prevail. Not really, not in most cases. And what's interesting about my journey as being a breakup coach for 5 years, maybe 6 years now, is it's actually the best way to understand relationship advice, because you go to the part where things fail and then you can see where they failed or where there were issues. And what's really incredible is I feel like dating and attracting someone is much different than when you get to a point of a breakup in a relationship of a year, 2 years, 5 years, 7 years. People think, where did we go wrong? People think, oh, it went wrong right here. But there's usually some situations involved in that breakup that it's not just like they broke up with me, they never cared about me, they're a narcissist. These are generally, it's not that those things are untrue, but it's a lazy way of going about your breakup. You have a problem or two or three or situations within the breakup that really caused it. Okay. And then if you know what caused it and you have a law that applies to it or is close to it, it's much better than saying all women cheat. Oh, it's daddy issues. That's one of the ones that gets the oldest for me, because so many people, there was just daddy issues. Well, what were the issues from the dad? It's like, huh? What do you mean? It's like, well, what makes it daddy issues? And I'm not saying that people don't have problems with their dad, but the ironic thing is that's always applied to women, right? And it's kind of like this, like, joke. It's kind of a funny thing. Even women would say, oh, she's got daddy issues. Ha ha ha. Right? But really, if you peel back the layers, it's way deeper than a daddy issue. There might have been physical abuse. There might have been verbal abuse. There might have been, how about this one? When you just have a parent that was just really hard on them. They had to get A's. They had to dress a certain way. Their shirt always had to be ironed. What does that apply to? That's a totally different way. So all daddy issues fall under the same umbrella? Kinda. And that's why people, oh yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it was. But if they really wanted to get to the bottom of it and understand it better, then they would know, like, no, she's got issues with her dad, who's really controlling when she was young, never let her drive to school alone, like whatever, the details of it, right? And ironically, men have daddy issues too, or mommy issues. And it's become, this is the way things are done. It's, let me have a title about daddy issues. Let me have a title about narcissism. But there's way more nuance to the relationship and the situation going on. And if you just stop at that surface level, you're really cheating yourself of figuring out where you're headed, and you're probably going to repeat the same thing again. You're probably going to have another breakup that goes the same way, because people repeat patterns because they're comfortable and they're familiar. That's just the way it is. Now, why is it important to review the laws of a breakup? Now, once I get done with this project, it's going to be like an encyclopedia where you go, oh, this is one law, this is one law, this applies to me, this doesn't apply to me. I would recommend that you read all 75 laws. Why? Because then you're versed when something comes up in the future. Oh, I read about this situation. I know all the situations now, just from talking to so many people about their breakups. I know the repeated patterns of a certain situation. The interpretations and the perceptions of the individual in the relationship is always going to be different, right? And so that's what changes things. Now, learn how you process the situation. Now, here's a whole nother thing. Getting to the bottom of how you process things, what you look for first, is really interesting. I just came across a book by RJ Spina or Spina. This individual, and I can't think of the name of the book. I need B right now. Someone else can look this up real quick. RJ Spina, he had some sort of accident that paralyzed him. He was able to come out of it with meditation, manifestation, and all these other things. So he wrote a book about that. He has a second book out, and he's got this idea, and I've played around with it recently. I tried it. I didn't do the 2 weeks. He says 2 weeks where you spend every time you get a thought, an urge, or an impulse to go do something, you ask yourself why. It's the second book, Rob I asked. So he made 2 books. I think there's a newer one, Supercharged Self-Healing, and then the next one. Thank you for checking. That was one of his books. But what's interesting is he gives this very simplistic task that you can do. Basically, buy a notebook, block out 2 weeks of your schedule. He recommends people take time off work even. And then every time, let's say you go, oh, I got to go get my hair cut. Ask yourself, well, why do I want to get my hair cut? Well, it's time. It's getting too long. That's a justification. Why do you feel like a need to get your hair cut today? Well, I have plans this weekend and I want to look good. Why is it important to you to get your hair cut at all? Because I care what people think about me and how I look. That would be, see how that's 3 layers below? Sometimes it takes 5 or 6 questions of why to get to the point where you're at the subconscious root of why you do what you do. Very interesting, very simplistic. And you can play with this. Well, why? Well, why? And then you'll come to something like, where's that answer from? Right? So try this out. And then you can understand your perception, where it's coming from and where you tend to have your issues. So, for example, people that like to judge usually like to feel superior, right? They like to feel superior, and it's a sense of control. I can be guilty of this sometimes. Okay. But when I went through my things and I was like, okay, I got to the bottom of something like this, because you like to feel superior or act superior. These will come up. And then you can understand where you're coming from. How am I filtering out my information? It's really, really interesting. I'll probably do a deep dive on that book another time, but the basic practice of it, if I had a live caller on, we could do it right now. You'll be surprised what comes up when you get to that fourth or fifth layer of why you're doing what you're doing. What's the real reason you're getting the haircut? Now, getting a haircut isn't a really deep topic, right? It's one of his examples in the book. But his reason for getting a haircut at the bottom line was so people look at me and are impressed by the way I look. It was something like that when he got to the bottom of it. So you can do this with a lot of different things, and you can just basically layer them down with one more question. And when you're trying to get to the bottom, what's my motivation to be right? It's another issue. A lot of people like to be right. What's your motivation to be right all the time? Well, then I feel superior to people. Well, then I feel that I'm smarter than other people. Why is it important for you to be smarter than other people? Well, because when I was young, I was always told I was dumb. Now you're getting layers and layers deeper. So he tells you to do this for 2 weeks, and everything that comes up, you layer it down. Now, once you bring that to the surface of why you do something, you've deconstructed it. And now you know why you do it, but you also give it less weight, and you can actually delete that process, and you can clean up some things that probably are justifications and motivations that you don't really have anymore, that you were just carrying since you were a kid. So get advice from a law that suits you and your situation. So this is probably the most useful thing about breaking breakups into laws, okay, is that someone can find out of 75 laws, if that's what I stick with, 48 laws, 50 laws, 60 laws, they can pick two that you can go through all of them. And then you find the law, you're like, oh my God, this is my relationship. This applies to me. Now, why I would do this is the reason is because it's just a constant thing, but people are really getting spun by general advice where it doesn't apply to their situation. Okay. It doesn't seem to be working for them, because what they're doing is and they come to me, well, women do this, men do this, attachment theory. They're trying to fit things that fit their relationship instead of trying to use their relationship as the narrative that they need help with. They're trying to fit it into a box. And I feel like you're cutting corners on figuring out what happened and why, rather than getting a coaching session with myself and diving deeper, or one of these laws might be more specific with some actual advice. So today I'm not going to get into the format of the laws, but I'm going to give you guys, guys and gals, some topic laws that I'm starting out with, and this is just going to be a rapid fire. So what I'd like from you, the people that are on deck, if you could interact, if you feel like one of the laws that I mentioned fits you, write it down or make a note or mention it in the chat. Okay. As, okay, that's something that maybe applies to me, or what does that mean? And this is a very rough draft that I've just done. Okay. Also, if you have a law in your head, catchy line, throw it in the comments below, and we'll get to that in a moment to discuss. And what does that law mean to you? Right? Maybe it'll make the series that I'm putting together. And this is one of the big reasons I've been not doing live streams recently. So, Rye Flint, welcome as always. I hope you're doing well. I believe the book is called Change Your Mind. It's got some rainbow colors to it. On the outside, different pastels, if you will. So I love the idea of the law. It sounds very beneficial. Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it. Okay. So let's get into these. Like I said, please make a note or a comment if one touches you, or you want me to elaborate, or you think that's a good one. Maybe pick out the top 3, top 4. So number 1 would be fuck up or break up. So what do I mean by that? This is where I lose YouTube's algorithm by swearing. Supposedly been told. It's when you did something wrong, right? So when you F up, I hate saying it like that. When you F up, you did something wrong or repeatedly did something wrong. Then later on, when you didn't get the results you wanted, you realized that you were responsible and that your actions led to you getting results that hurt you in some way and you didn't see it coming. So that's what an F up is, right? You messed up. An F up is a really bad mess up. Now, people hold this after a breakup, like, I messed up. I messed up. At some point, majority of people, not all, whether it's a year, 2 years, 5 years, they're going to get to a point where it was just a breakup. Now, if you have extremely negative individuals that like to carry a victim axe, they'll carry that till the day they die. Most people, at some point, it'll become just a breakup. And that's a really nice thing, because a breakup, it's so different than saying I effed up. I fucked up. It's so different. And you could even say, like, I messed up. Say I fucked up is way higher, right? So when I say that's a law, what I'm saying is, number one, how do you feel about that now? Do you feel like, man, I really messed up? I really effed up. Okay. How? But at some point, whether you messed up or not, you got to get to that neutral point where you just say, we broke up. I had my difference. I did some things wrong. She did some things wrong. We broke up. It was a breakup. It happened. Right? A breakup is when you and your partner decide that you can't fix the problems of your relationship and that neither of you is going to change that. Now think about that. That's very definitive. A breakup is when you and your partner decide that you can't fix the problems of your relationship and that neither of you is going to change that. At some point, the realization that you are no longer compatible, that you or they individually find the relationship to have run its course and it's now over. Some may feel like they fucked up in the relationship or messed up bad, but the end result is a breakup. And you need to accept that moving forward. And once you do, it changes the whole dynamic. And so you get to that point, maybe you messed up. But the goal is get to, yeah, we broke up. Because running around and telling everyone, oh, I messed up. Oh, I messed up so bad. That doesn't help you. There's a time for it, maybe right in the beginning or explaining what happened, but carrying that weight around your shoulders. Because guess what? Let's say, for example, the classic cheating, right? I've come across this hundreds of times with clients. I cheated. I messed up. Okay. All right. What happened? What'd you do? Well, she was texting me. We were in a Discord group. We play video games together. There's a back channel. There's a backstory to the whole thing, right? Go, okay. Did that. She found the text. She accused me, but I never hooked up. It was more like emotional cheating. It was this. It was that. It was this. It was that. Now, here's the part that's going to make this a law that you didn't see. Now, everyone listening to this is thinking, well, you really messed up, man. You cheated, right? Okay. But let's say there's 100 people that cheat with the same exact style of cheating. Okay. Let's say, for example, that in this particular case, there's a case study and there's 100 people that get caught cheating in a Discord group, a video game chat. I know nothing about this space or this area. I don't play video games. I haven't been on these Discords, but I've had clients that have come to me with these situations. Okay. So let's just say the situation is this. Someone's in a group where they talk about a specific video game. There's maybe, I don't know, 200 or 300 people in the Discord, and they start talking to someone in the Discord, and they start sexting each other and sending each other dirty pics. Happens a lot, actually. And all 100 of the people that I'm talking about have a very similar to same situation on their cheating. So you go, wow, you got a case study of all these people. Here's the crazy thing. Not everyone would think they messed up. Here's the crazy thing. Not everyone will result in a breakup. Now think about that for a minute. You, the person that could never accept any kind of cheating, emotional cheating, or any kind of thing going on with a Discord and naked pics and sexting and texting. Someone else goes, oh, well, there was no penetration. I'm okay. That's perception. That's interpretation. So that's my point, is when you watch videos a lot of times on YouTube, someone took away the perception and interpretation away from you. And they said, this is right or wrong. This is what you do in an emotional cheating situation. You'd never put up with something like that. Someone has a channel for that. What that is a projected opinion of the individual saying, do what I do because it's right. But the reality is, someone could have the same exact situation and not think they messed up. They could characterize it as an accident. They could characterize it as a mistake. They could characterize it as, well, my partner, we haven't slept together in 6 months, and they have a ailment where we can't do anything, and so this is why I did it. So now that's a validation, right? That's a justification. My point is, it's not just clear cut for someone to come to the conclusion that they messed up and stay in that cycle. I messed up, man. I really messed up. It's like, all right, so what happened? Right. Cheating's wrong. It wasn't accepted in your relationship. But at some point, you're going to want to get to that point where we broke up. I've said sorry. I've done the best I could. I messed up, but it's not a fuck up. Fuck up's way more than a mess up. That's why it's a different word set. But I'm not going to carry this. We just broke up. What I'm saying about that is, I've talked to a lot of different people, and they might have the same law or situation, but they're not handling it the same. And so for someone to get to the point where they let go of that, I messed up, I fucked up, they have to usually talk to a coach or a therapist and unpack what they did, confess of what they've done, and make sense of it on their own. And they can go about their life at some point and go, we just broke up. I wasn't forgiven. Now, if you think about it, that's a whole nother law. People don't have to forgive you. But if we have 100 cases of the same breakup, I don't know, maybe 25 people forgive someone in a day for emotional cheating. Maybe 25 more say, I'll have to think about it. We're going to have to take a break for a month. Maybe 25 say, I'll never talk to you again. Now, the people that are in the 25 that say, I'll never talk to you again, you emotionally cheated on me, I don't want to listen to what you said. Now you feel like you really messed up. Now you feel like I fucked up because of the way they're reacting to what you did. Right? But the holy grail is to get to a point post-breakup where you're like, we broke up. We just broke up. Someone's like, what happened? Well, one of the major problems was we cheated. But here's the thing. Whenever someone cheats, there's also a layer of why they cheated. I'm not saying it's right, but they need to get to the bottom of those layers. Well, why'd you do it, man? Because I'll always have a story for it. Well, actually, in some stories, they make a case, man. Like, they'll make a case to me, and I'll be like, all right, I can see where you come from. Or they'll just be like, dude, I messed up. I was seeing this girl, and they'll be cocky about it. Whatever. Everyone's different about that. But the bottom line is, you're not going to get through your breakup until you realize, like, we broke up. That's the core of it. Not that you messed up. You've already fell on the sword, said sorry 5 times, explained yourself. You've done all that. So you've done all you could. Now it's become a lesson. Look, this is a consequence of me cheating in the future. It could wreck a relationship for me. I'm not going to be able to talk my way out of this. Now you got a lesson instead of a fuck up. And you have a breakup instead of a fuck up. We broke up. I learned my lesson. Married, looking for you in the daylight with a flashlight. They still put people on milk cartons in the States. I hope you're doing well. I actually emailed you, Mary, and to check in on you, and your email bounced back. So I don't know what's going on. So let's go on to the next law. And like I said, this is a rough draft. I'd like you guys to participate. So if you guys come in with anything or any comments on these laws that you think are good or bad, let me know, or you want to reword it. This is a interactive live stream. Number 2, problems weren't solved. Now think about that narrative for a minute as a law. And really what a law is just a short narrative, right? Problems, like someone said, why'd you break up? Problems weren't solved. That is so clean. Doesn't that sound better? Oh, I really messed up. I met this girl at work and we started texting each other. And I don't know. She sent me some pictures. I messed up. It's like, at the end, yeah, you messed up. But there are some individuals who will listen to you and maybe reconcile and give you a second chance. Then you would never be telling everyone you messed up. So really the problem was you got caught, which wasn't your intention, and then you weren't forgiven. Problems weren't solved. And reconcilable differences. I always have trouble with that word, right? Problems weren't solved. Great law. Problems weren't solved. That's what led to the breakup. And usually when someone cheats, there's some background shit outside of the problems. Not always. And I'll tell you what, that's when people feel really guilty. They go, nah, everything else was good. Everything else was good. I just had to meet up with this girl or something like that. That's when they feel like that. But there was a problem. There was a problem. You wanted an open relationship, but you didn't want to tell about it. Number 3, temptation is an environment issue. Now, is this 1,000% true? No. Could this be argued? Yes. But it's very true in most cases. So when you look at an individual that's you're breaking up with because they're starting to text someone else, or you feel like they've been cheating, or they've been spending a lot of time with single people, friends, or people from work, and they're going out to singles bars and staying out late. Temptation is an environment issue. So if you think, why did they do it? Why did they do what they did? And I'll add to temptation, if someone's dating someone that's a former drug addict or alcoholic. This has come up before where someone starts drinking. And I heard about this a couple months ago. Someone was telling me that they had a boyfriend that they had been dating for, I believe, 4 years. Been really good together. And the guy had been sober for something like 10 years. And so she didn't think anything of it. Well, he started drinking again. She didn't really drink, so she wasn't really aware of like alcoholic issues. And the guy was like, hey, let's have a drink. And she was like, all right, I'll have a drink with you. And he just proceeded to clear the bar and get really wasted. This was a side of him she never saw and she wasn't aware of. But guess what? Usually what an alcoholic or a drug addict, it's going to be an environment issue. If they're in an environment that has a lot of drinks, has a lot of drugs that they like, is very convenient and easy, or is supported by other drug addicts, and they're more likely to go into that. It's the same thing for cheating. So temptation is an environment issue. So what's knowing that, this is a really good thing to look at once you're broken up and you go, people go all the time, oh my God. Yeah, the last 3 months, she's been hanging out with her single roommate and they go out all the time on the weekend. So are you going to fix that? No, but you're going to understand that the environments someone's frequenting is going to affect them doing the wrong thing in a monogamous relationship. Makes a lot of sense. So then when you're in a relationship in the future, and this is where the lesson comes in, you're in a relationship in the future, you can go, I don't want you hanging out at that bar on the weekend. I know it's a singles place, and we're going to have to talk about this. I don't mind if you hang out with Sally. I think she's cool, but she's single and she's ready to mingle. You know that. I know that. You know what she's looking for, and you guys are hanging out together. So you're putting yourself in bad positions. Now, is that talk going to go smooth? Is that going to go all right? No, but it needs to be said from the get-go. Because if there's any chance of them not overcoming the temptation, it's going to be you getting out front of that. And you knowing from the get-go, hey, look, it's not cool, right? If you put chocolate chip cookies in front of 20 different 5-year-old kids, most of them are going to eat them. Even if they say, hey, don't eat those chocolate chip cookies. They got poison in them, right? The kids will probably eat them anyways. They'll think you're lying. They'll think you're joking. You probably are, because who would put chocolate chip cookies in front of a kid with poison, right? That's ridiculous. So temptation is an environment issue. It's good post-breakup. You're like, oh, yeah, now I know it. That's very situational also, because someone can look at it and go, that's when they started changing the environments they spent time in, right? Number 4, don't let the breakup break you. I'm going to give this one to the great Sam Lujan, who threw this in on a live stream a few weeks past as a suggestion. Like I said, rough draft, we're going off here. Don't let the breakup break you. Good one. Because really, this is something you can come back to, and this is something you want to come back to if you feel like it is breaking you, literally. You feel like it's crushing you. And how would you do that? How would you not let the breakup break you? Well, all your pain or emotion or pent-up energy, you got to get some kind of exercise or release. Okay? You have to build a new system of habits that aren't the same that you had with your ex, because you get uncomfortable with the change. Now you can, and there are a lot of people that do this, and this is what the theme that I would go with if you're going to go, don't let breakup break you. Channel that into, you know what? I'm going to get my body right. You know what? I'm going to go get some new clothes. Post breakup, it's time to get better, time to improve. Not a time to crawl into a little hole and complain and whine. It's like, it's time to get motivated. If you're on the mat and you got knocked down, there's only one place to do is get up, right? Number 5, accept the breakup. Sounds very easy to understand. Difficult for a lot of people to do. This goes back to mess up or break up, fuck up or break up. Accept the breakup. I know that there's some people, they don't accept it for a year, 2 years. This is a very important one. They just can't accept it. Can't accept it. Now, if you got someone that can't accept something, does anyone in the live stream have any suggestions? If you were dealing with an individual and they just can't let go that the woman left him for another guy that's not as good as him. They just can't let go that they got left. What would you tell them? What's a way to accept the breakup? And a lot of people go, oh, honey, you can do better than him. You can do better than him. I never liked him. Oh, this would be kind of advice that, you know, friends or family. Oh, you know what? They wouldn't say just accept it. It actually, a lot of times, will take a little bit of time, but you actually need to say it sometimes. That's why I use the tapping, even though Mary never talk to me again. I'm okay. I accept it. I'm getting better and better. And I know I did my best in that relationship till the end. And then you go through the tapping, and that helps. That really helps. You actually just need to see it sometimes. You need to tell yourself. Your words are very powerful. Number 6, identify change. Identity change changes the relationship. So you've heard me talk about this ad nausea. If you've been on the live stream before. The minute someone changes their uniform, changes their job, changes their status, changes their look. This could be cosmetic surgery also, right? It changes the relationship because now you're dealing with a new character. And this is actually one of the most important laws. And I've actually had a lot of people in their early 20s. Wait, say that one again. And this one, post breakup, is something that you didn't see or notice that connects dots. Oh, yeah, right when they got that job. Oh, right when they started at that university. So you got to look at it like this. People are compartmentalized. You can tell I haven't talked on this for a while. You actually have multiple characters within you. It's not as extreme as it is with different people, but you have multiple personalities for multiple situations. You'd like to think, oh, no. But if you have a cop pull you over, someone's reaction might be to be a jerk. Someone else's reaction might be, let me be polite. Let me be polite, because in my when I've dealt with cops before, they deal with so many jerks. You just be polite, you listen, you answer the questions. That would be an approach for me, right? That's worked. I haven't talked to a cop in a long time in that situation. You get a speeding ticket, someone's going to handle that differently. I've had friends before that are yelling at the cop right when and I'm just like, what are you doing? Number one, you're not going to win. Number two, you might get another ticket. You might even go to jail for that if you push this too far, right? So knowing that once your partner gets a new job, a new best friend that has a different job and different identities, it changes the whole relationship because the person's habits and interest and attention changes. And so when you go and look at it post breakup, you're like, oh shit, that's when they changed. It wasn't me. I didn't mess up. And this is what happens. There's no one's fault. Someone might look back, oh, I would have never let them get that job or move to that school or move in with that roommate. Hindsight's always 20/20. But at least you can say, I get it now. I have some clarity. And in the future, I'm going to choose someone to date that I'm really clear on their identity, like who they believe themselves to be. And people will do this with I am statements, but really it is with the job that they do and how they spend their time and how they identify themselves. Now, I don't want to go down that too much because that's a whole nother thing, right? All right, let me check in on the live stream and we'll get back to this. Ron Pellegrino, are you related to the family that has the Pellegrino drink? The water with soda? There was nothing anyone could say for me except I'm sorry. I'm here for you if you need me. Is that a law or is that just you just standing on that, Ron? Welcome to the live stream, my friend. What have for your situation, Ron? If you want to share. All right, Skinner, how you doing? It was kind of funny because B was supposed to be on the live stream today. He wasn't able to make it because of traffic. And I mentioned, oh, Rye Flint's been asking about the channel. And then Rye Flint left a comment, when are you coming back today? And I was like, I'm actually coming back today. So that just goes to show you that we are able to communicate just like the internet is. What's up, Petty Betty? The new pick? Yeah, good pick. All right. Don't put those cookies in front of me either. That's my favorite. I just bought some chocolate chip cookies today. Breakup sucks for both the dumper and the dumpy. Sometimes you need to accept the parts that are easy first, then you'll find the rest to follow. Great way to put it, Sam. Thank you. Get a bigger and better boyfriend or girlfriend. Okay. Food always makes me feel better. I wouldn't recommend that as one of the laws, but okay. I definitely do. All right. So, next one. This is actually one I've mentioned, and I think it could be a sensitive spot for people when they're post-breakup. It's definitely something that someone just doesn't come out and say to their friends. Oh, this is what happened. They usually have a bunch of other crap. But if you do a live coaching session, I'm talking to you. This is something that I can tell if it's extreme. And if it's extreme, it's one of the biggest reasons why you probably aren't going to get back together. They've lost attraction. Once attraction is lost, it can be regained. It can't be regained in a day or a week. And that's why I needed to put that extra sentence. So if you have an anxious person that isn't in touch with what happened in the relationship, if you start asking questions like, you guys haven't been sleeping together, once a month, or once every 2 months, you guys don't talk much, there's attraction being lost. And that's okay. Attraction's fleeting. Someone can become attracted to you again, but it's not going to be in a day or a week. What unfortunately happens in these situations, people don't realize it, or they go and get a haircut and a new pair of shoes and a new shirt. They get all done up and they go out like, let's go out on a date. Like that's not going to re-attract someone, because they're just going to look at it like you're out of character right now. So if you're in a situation where you broke up and attraction was very low because you let yourself go, because you're not what they're looking for, it's okay. They're not the only person that gets to judge your attraction, but also you're not going to, there's no video out there or X-Back kit that's going to overcome that in a day or a week. Okay. Now women can overcome this a little faster because men are more thirsty for intimacy. So if a woman, shows up in boots and a skirt and something really, really sexy, she might have more of an opportunity to flip that. I think guys, it's a little bit more difficult. But when I talk to people that are out of 2-year, 3-year, 4-year relationships, sometimes they just don't see that that's the problem. They're blind to it. And if that's the issue, because a lot of times someone will go, oh, I lost attraction for you, I'm just going to tell you the truth. They usually don't say that. They just hint, because it's a mean thing to say. It's not nice. But those particular situations, stop trying right away, because that's not going to work. They're not attracted to you, and you're coming at them again and again, and you can't change that. Now, when you know that's the case, you're better off letting that be your motivation to get back on deck on whatever level you were at when they first met. Now, someone can lose attraction to you, and you could be the same person that they hooked up with, a year or two ago, or feel like that. But their standards changed, or you just have a personality type out there that is adventurous. They like to take chances. They like to change wardrobe 2 times a day. Those are people that they're going to find so many things attractive that it's going to be hard to stay attracted to them, because they like new, and that's not personal. That's a personality type, right? Okay, so the next one. You've lost confidence and nobody cares. Now, the reason I wrote you lost confidence and nobody cares, because a lot of times people will start with nobody cares. Nobody, like, they don't even care that we've been together 3 years. They don't even care anymore that, like, we've been through so much together. We've been through hard times and good times. I was willing to work it out. Really, when you can, if you have that the first week, maybe even the first month, but if you carry that narrative on, what you're saying is, I don't have confidence. Because at some point, not that many people care. Your friends and family will care about you it'll have an expiration date. And deep down inside, they're like, I just want you to be happy. But they're not going to be like, oh, yeah, Clara really did you wrong. Oh, yeah, they're not going to do that more than 2 or 3 times. If you continue on with that, you got to look at, am I lacking confidence? That's a different narrative than nobody cares. Because if you had confidence, you'd say, you know what? I'm going to meet someone else. You know what? I'm going to get back on deck. You know what? I'm just going to take a break from the dating apps and women for 6 months. You're going to come up with some kind of plan or system or idea to go with. Going with nobody cares, or that she never cared about me, is just playing a victim role, and it just wears thin with people outside of you, unless your best friend's a therapist. Maybe they make extra time for you. But that's a narrative that a lot of times people have coming out, and then they got to dissect, where did I lose confidence? Is it about this relationship, or is it more than that? And usually it's more than that. Maybe you don't have a good job. Maybe you feel like you don't make enough money. Because where you really want to get is, you want to get to a point where it's not about if they cared or not. It's about if you can get back on deck. Because when you're at that point where you are low on confidence, I've been there before, post breakup. Because of when you really look at the aerial view of your life, you're unhappy with multiple things. Because let's be honest, folks, if you had everything going right, you had a fucking great job, you had money in the bank, you got a kick-ass house, you live by the beach, you have lots of friends, your family's life's going well, and not many people have it, because guess what? Those are a lot of buckets to have full. But let's just say all the wheels are turning and you have a breakup. It might be the end of the world for a day or two. It might be really hurtful for a day or two. But then when you look at your life, you're like, nah, I got a lot going for me. And those kind of people don't stay single long. Someone has to win the argument to be right. This is actually a huge narrative. People, and the ironic thing about these people, they don't even know they're doing it. So if you're in a relationship with someone like this, it's not, you can't just tell them, oh, you always have to be right. They're actually in a subconscious pattern, and arguments with them are exhausting because they won't accept, not only when they're wrong, but if they tend to, when you're partners, right, you tend to read the other person's mind and be right a lot of times, because you know them, you live with them, you spend a lot of time with them. But sometimes you're wrong. I've had this before where it's like, what you think I'm thinking is not right. You got it wrong this time, hun. It's like, no, I know you're thinking. No, I'm telling you, I'm not thinking that. I'm telling you the truth. So when you say, I know you think this, it's like, no, that's someone that thinks they have to be right. That what they should do is like, I'm sorry, what were you thinking? Or where did I get it wrong? Seek to understand, not to be understood. Now, when you're with someone like that, though, it's very difficult. And when you're out of that relationship, you're kind of like relieved, because everything has to be about them winning. And there's some people out there that just drop their arms and be like, oh, okay, if you have to win, that's fine. If we sleep together later on, or the money keeps coming in, I'll be okay with it. They just accept that as part of the relationship. That's okay. But post breakup, people that have to be right, they come up with all these narratives and storylines that they think are absolutely truthisms, if that's a word. And they can't let anything go. And they're actually holding on to narratives that are very fragile. But just in the name of being right and coming up with something, they have to come up with, well, they did this, they did that, they did this. It's like, well, this goes back to law number one. You just broke up. That's where we want to get to. We don't want to get to a point. That's the holy grail. We broke up. Someone asked out all the other narratives. Problems weren't solvable. And what were the problems? I've already gone through them. I know what they are, and I know that I learned a lot of lessons. If I came across those again, I'd handle them differently. That's where you want to get, right? Number 10, very simply put, finances are an issue. Maybe I can make more clever wordsmithing of that. But surprise, surprise, this is a big issue in breaking up, right? Finances are an issue. And if anyone says different, like, oh, no, I don't care about money. A lot of times individuals in a relationship, oh, I don't care about money. Yeah, because you never made any. The people that usually say that are the people that are usually leeching off the other person or needing to subside off more people, right? So if finances are an issue, the good thing about that is it can be tracked. It's tangible. It's something that post-breakup you can look at and go, well, here it is right here. You know, she was maxing out the credit cards. I mean, taking out loans on the house. Finances are an issue. Unfortunately, now in 2023, it's a big part of a long-term relationship. Okay. And so if you're going to get into any kind of relationship that has wheels, you got to start understanding the patterns and cycles of the individual you are with money, right? Are you going to keep things separate? Are you going to keep things shared? And also, is it a sensitive place for the individual you're with? I've got friends out there that make really good money, right? Really good money, and they're cheap. And if you get lunch with them, it's to the penny. And that's okay. They're fair, right? They're fair. I've had friends like that. It was like, all right, it's, $872. I got this, I got that. And that's how they like to, they're never going to give you extra or anything like that. Now, when you're in a relationship, knowing that about the person, now you have something to accept or not accept, because they probably were built that way, right? Now, if you have the manipulative type with finances where they're always like, oh, no, I just don't have money right now, or I don't have this, and you're uncomfortable with carrying the weight or always paying their way, that's probably not going to get fixed in a day or a week. And there's layers below that. It's not just negligence. It's how they were taught to deal with money from their parents or their caregivers. And so it would take them changing their identity, their job, their training to get better with their finances. But if you're 2 years down the road and you're like, finances have been a problem, they probably always have been, because people that are bad with money are bad with money when they have money too. So it's just a cycle, right? Number 11. Your ex was number 1, 2, and 3 in your life. Okay, so come across this many times where I'm talking, especially men seem to have trouble with this. Let's say a woman has a career, or she's got a niece and a nephew, or she's got her own kids, right, from another marriage or another man, or multiple men in some cases, which is totally fine. And what the guy didn't realize is he's at the back of the bus. And he's feeling neglected. He's feeling, you don't care about me. You don't put in enough effort. And it's like, well, she's got 2 kids. They're going to probably come first until you marry her. And then maybe you might be equal or split with the kids as far as who's the most important. And what the problem is the guy is like, well, she's number 1 for me. Now, if she's number 1, 2, and 3 for you, meaning like you don't really have a close relationship with buddies or friends, you don't really have a close relationship with your family, it's going to be difficult if you broke up, because you hedged a lot on that woman. You also were negligent and blind to the fact that she had other people ahead of you, which is okay. Because if she's got kids or lives with her niece and nephews or has a grandparent she takes care of that's ill, you're never going to fully understand that because you're not in her shoes, or vice versa. And so it's very frustrating because the person comes to me, not me frustrated, them, that they don't get it, because what they're doing is they're like, I know how kids are. Do you have kids? No. Do you live with your kids full time? No. Well, you don't really know. And you don't even know what their kids are like. So here goes another rabbit hole to layer it down. Those kids that they have that you think are, well, I like kids, they're good kids. You don't really know those kids. And one of them could have a major attitude problem. Another one of them could have asthma. He has to go to the emergency all the time. Like, there's all kinds of things there. And so if someone comes up, they're broken up. Oh, they never cared about me. They just never made time for me. They never answered my text. All right. So that's usually, in that case, it comes pretty quick that they're number one for you and you're number 3, number 2, number 4 sometimes, because they have other things that are more important than you. Does that feel good? No. Do you need to go out, have some things in place to put them in number 2 or 3? No. But realize where you stand and then validate it or don't validate it. For example, if they got kids, could you understand where they're coming from? Could you not press so hard when she says, well, you know, my son's sick tonight, I can't go on the date. And you're like, well, just get a babysitter, I'll pay for it. And she's like, no, I want to stay home and make sure he takes his medicine. That's a classic case where the guy's like, I want to be the sick kid. I want to be the one. I want the attention today. And the other person's like, well, this person comes first. Right? And it's very hard to get that concept for some guys, because why wouldn't I be number one? The reason why you think that is because they're number 1, 2, and 3 for you. You have them on a pedestal and they don't have a lot of other competition in your life right now. And so you're looking at it like, well, we can get a sitter for the kids. We can do this. That's your perspective. And that perspective is going to put you in a situation where you're not understanding. Right? Number 12. Oh, this is a tough one. You are no longer a priority. So someone starts the relationship and they love bomb you and they put you first. They go out of their way for you. And then something happens. They get a job that's 60 hours a week. That's their dream job. And their boss is paying them more than they've ever made before. You're no longer a priority. You're no longer first. They have a family member that's in need. You're no longer a priority. Now, some situations you can understand why you're not a priority anymore. It still hurts. It still leads to breakups. But understanding that that's a possibility is part of weathering the relationship storm, if you will. Being okay, like, all right, I can deal with it not being a priority right now. It's your career. I can take 2 steps back. I can make more of an effort if that's what you want to do. But if that's not what you want to do, and that's not the kind of relationship you want to be in, and you want to be a priority, then you might have to break up and just break up. Problems weren't solved. That's going to be an issue for a long time. I'm not going to take a back seat to your job as a lawyer. I'm not going to take a back seat to your job as a master chef. And that's just a choice. Right? Number 13, and this is probably one of the best laws there is. Their mom hates you. Definitely want to keep this one. Their mom hates you. Now, the number of guys that I have, their parents really liked me. So after the breakup, I kind of reached out and talked to mom. I'm always like, don't do that. No matter how much someone's parents like you, they generally are not going to talk their child into getting back with you. You're going around them. A lot of times it's embarrassing. A lot of times someone that's an adult does not want the mom telling them what to do in their relationship. It's a bad look. Okay. It's really bad. Now, when mom hates you and makes bad comments, you don't have enough education, you don't have enough, you don't make enough money, or they just don't like the way you look, or they're just rude. Now, in my experience, sometimes parents are really tough in the front and they soften up over time when you stick around. In other words, a lot of people don't think their kids are ever going to find the person that matches up with what they want the kid to be with, right? So sometimes parents will come around, right? They'll come around, they'll realize you're a good guy or a good woman. But if their mom just flat out hates you and the reasons are puzzling or unfair, just get out of the relationship. And let me add, if the partner you're with beckons to the mom, in other words, they're 38 years old and their mom still rules their life, they still do what their mom tells them to do, look out, because now you have a two-headed monster. And when you have problems with your girlfriend or wife, they're going to bring their mom in play, and now you have someone else to answer to. If you're in one of those situations, you can accept that, but just know it's not going away. And there's guys out there that have accepted that. There's guys out there that are like, yeah, they'll just take it on the chin on family events or things like that. But what I would say, if you end up in a breakup and they're like, their mom never liked me, well, then you got out of something that was probably going to cause you a lot of pain. Because once you get married, the expectations get higher. Once you get kids, the expectations probably go higher. And if that mom's out for blood, and let's just say you're 20, the mom's got to be 40 something. If let's say you're 30, the mom's got to be 50 something. People that are bitter, it doesn't age well. People that go out of their way to be unreasonable and hate and judge, it usually is not going to go away when they're 50. And if their kid accepts, oh, that's just how mom is, be thankful when you're out of a breakup and you go, their mom hates me. Well, then congratulations. Let me shake your hand and congratulate you on a better life. Because that's not fair. You're living up to some other mom's standards, let alone your own mom. Number 14, the one who cares less rules the relationship and the breakup. Now, some individuals that are extremely stubborn, tough, and they believe this about independent, even though the other person ruled the relationship, they might be able to handle no contact better. So the one who cares less rules the relationship and the breakup. And the person that cares more really hurt because they think, why don't you care more? I can tell you don't care much about me. Number 15, attraction is fleeting. So always remember, when you're attracted to someone, when someone is attracted to you, it's in a moment, it's in a day. Long-term attraction usually comes from working with someone. So if you work with someone or you follow someone on TV or YouTube or Instagram or one of these things, you might develop this pedestal for them. But the reality is everyone doesn't look good some time in the day, right? The reality is attraction can be up and down with your mood, right? Attraction can change. So when someone says, oh, my girlfriend's a 10, there's certainly moments when you can see her as a 7 or a 6 when she's got a bad cold and maybe doesn't have her makeup on, etc., etc. And that's okay. It's just human. Understanding that when you're in a breakup where you say you've lost attraction or they've lost attraction, understand that moment can be changed. So it's almost like a thermometer. You know, good haircut, better clothes, going to gym, exercising better, eating healthier. You know, when you've had times in your life where people go, wow, you look good. What have you been up to? It's not by accident usually. It's not by you just, eating and sleeping. It's usually doing some kind of activities, getting some sun, that'll make you look better. But the idea of looking 24 hours, you're tip top, it's never there. And so if attraction was a major issue in your breakup, just know that no matter who you're with, you're not going to be 1,000% attracted to them. Now, there's some people out there be like, no, I don't think that's true. I'm always attracted. Okay. But if it's at 10, is it a 9 sometimes? Is it an 8 sometimes? Let's be honest, right? People have moments. Scarcity is attractive. I've talked about this many times before for number 16. Scarcity is attractive, meaning that, not knowing what someone's up to, not knowing when someone's going to come home, as bad as it sounds, it can be attractive. And this is why no contact creates some attraction juices, if there's anything left. Okay. Just the idea of someone that is a neighbor, right? If I had a female neighbor in my life that I've been attracted to, and you see her every day and you're like, yeah, Susie's cool, man. She's cute too. But you never act on it. Maybe you're talking to some other women, right? And you decide to move. Susie calls you up. You moved? Where'd you go to? What happened? Suddenly Susie, just in 3-4 days of you not being around and not being present and saying hello like you usually do to go to your car, scarcity is attractive. She's now more attracted to you to the point that she needs to call you to ask where you are, right? The key to that scarcity is attractive. There needs to be some kind of attraction there from the get-go, right? And what's the opposite of scarcity? Smothering, overly abundant. It's the same as supply and demand. All right, let me check in on the live stream. Let me know if you guys have any opinion on any of these laws or titles. What maybe stood out the most to you, or what one that I'm missing. We only got to 16, and maybe I'll do this as a part 2 tomorrow. But let me know what you guys think about that. So, no, B is not on his way. Spot on. Thanks, Rye. Very true. Also, circumstances affect finances, and being aware of that is very big. It isn't always about occupation, but about life changes as well. I agree 100%, Sam, and this is exactly my point. So if someone was to say finances are an issue, right? That's maybe a broad title or a broad law. To get more in depth in that, I would add what you said. For example, if someone gets laid off from a job that they were making really good money, and you're like, when are you going to get a job? What's going on? And you start pressuring them and not giving them the opportunity, chance, and respect that they can get another job. That's an issue, right? So how someone reacts to the finances being an issue is another thing. How understanding and supportive are they of you, that they believe you can do well, that they believe that your big idea or your dream job is something you're capable of doing. That's actually very big, because if you're with someone long-term that plays small, think small, or worst case scenario, especially when it comes to finances, it can really degrade a relationship. All right, we got 10 on deck. I could take a call today if someone has a new issue. If someone has a breakup issue or a situationship right now, if you wanted no camera on that, we could do that. Audio only. Could give you the invite link in a minute. So the next one. This is actually one that you aren't compatible. You're just running on attraction juices. So this is one of those ones that I would tie up with getting a personality assessment. There's Myers-Briggs out there. There's understandingmyself.com, which is represented by Jordan Peterson. I'm working on a breakup assessment right now and a relationship assessment. But what you'll do with that, like understandingmyself.com, Jordan Peterson, you'll take a 20-minute survey test that will test out such things as conscientious, extrovert or introvert, compassion, assertiveness. So what you'll do is there'll be 5 or 6 questions for each of those things, and you'll have a score. And what you can do is you can match your partner or your ex and see what your personality is against them. So if you have a 95 percentile compassion and their 5 percentile compassion, then you can see how different you guys are in that area. And if that's something, it's a good trade-off for you, right? So if you feel like, wow, this is where we're really having issues because I'm so much more compassionate and helping to other people, and this individual is all for themselves, it could really be nice to observe that in an assessment rather than try to look for that in a chat or a talk. So what I've noticed is sometimes people are so attracted, especially men, they're so attracted to their ex that they don't realize that they actually weren't very compatible. And they'll tell me, oh yeah, no, our connection was good. Our chemistry was good. But when you talk to them, number one, if you live a plane ride away, it's more difficult to be compatible. It really is, because you're actually forfeiting one of the best pleasures of having a partner, having them present in human form. So you aren't compatible and just running on attraction juices. Very, very, very common. And it's one of those things that even if you get this person, you get this ex, or you get back in this relationship, if you aren't compatible, you'll break up or have the same problem again. And a lot of times what guys in these situations will do unknowingly is they'll just try to become more attractive. So they'll look at pickup lines, they'll look at how to be more assertive, or they'll look at looking better. And those things can help. But if you aren't compatible, like you don't like the same things to do, you can look at compatibility like this too. Let's just say once someone has a career, someone's a structural engineer, and let's say someone is a what would be incompatible with a structural engineer for the live stream? What do you think? I'll let you guys play for a minute. When you said that law, it reminded me of when people say you aren't in love with them, you are in love with the thought of them. That could apply. So excuse me. And a lot of times not being compatible is your personality and your character and your way of doing things. And if you skip that, you don't have to be 1,000 or 100%, but there's certain things that you're so different that it's really not going to work. For example, religions are a big one, right? If someone's a devout Christian and they're dating someone who's devout Hindu, they're inevitably going to have problems. It doesn't mean they don't love each other, they're not attracted to each other. It means they're not compatible, because something that they value very highly doesn't match up at all. And like I said, this can be religion, jobs, politics, the food you eat. Someone's into exercise and the other person isn't. And realizing this can really help you in the future to understand that attraction is the lure. Attraction is important. but you're going to sacrifice a lot if that's the only thing you're looking for, and the relationship will not last. Number 19, your definition of love is different than theirs. Very big. Probably one of the biggest ones. And this, I would say, some people would be like, well, and the ironic thing is everyone thinks they know the definition of love is this. It's different for different people, and it's different in romantic relationships. And people would have different rules for people that they love and marry than people that they love in a family situation or a friendship, right? And so actually, this is one of those things when you realize this, it's actually a conversation to have once you start dating, not the fucking first date, unless you're in a really deep conversation. But at some point, it's an interesting question to have both answer for each other. And I would answer with detail. And if someone has difficulty answering it, maybe they want to define it for themselves. And that way, when someone's, why don't you love me? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? They can say, well, this is when I grew up, this is how love was to me, and this is how it's been in my relationships. So that's a conversation once you realize. And the reason I would put this as a law of a breakup, a lot of times someone will cling to the fact that they don't understand what love is, or I love this person and they didn't love me the same way back, or this isn't what you do when you love someone, right? And so the answer always is it's different for different people. There's no wrong or right to it. 20, cheating is a stain in the relationship that you just can't clean out. It seems to me that even couples that get back after cheating, a majority of those couples, which by the way, it's okay to forgive someone for that and get back together if you believe that they're truly sorry and you're okay with it. The problem is it gets brought back up. Someone keeps it in their back pocket for a fight, and they throw it on the table again and again, again and again. And it just doesn't go away. And so I've had multiple clients where the situation was where they emotionally cheated. They called an ex-girlfriend and they were doing text messaging with that person, and they got brought up on them 5 years later, over and over and over again, right? And so a lot of times, if that's the case where it's a stain in the relationship that you just can't clean out, just get rid of the shirt, man. Because it's not fair to the individual to keep getting beat up or brought to their attention about something that has already been accepted and moved on from. Number 21, emotional cheating with texts and photos is never completely forgiven. Very similar to the last one. In my experience, text and photos are one of the most difficult situations, even though there's no proof of penetration or actual sexual acts. The idea that someone read exactly what you wrote or someone saw photos of who you were talking to, it really is imprinted on them. And they might even save the texts or save the photos. And so if someone's doing that, it's one of those things, it's not completely forgiven, and they're going to check your phone more often. They're going to ask you more questions. In those particular cases, if you break up, you're better off starting fresh and learning from that lesson to not do that again, because it creates like this conditional love. Well, you did this to me. Well, you did this to me. It's brought up again and again and again. I've heard it many times. And someone just keeps it. And it's a way for them to manipulate and control the relationship, when really at some point they got to let it go. Okay. Number 22, you've been typecasted. Stop trying to play a new role in a movie that already ended. So this is probably one of the ones that people relate to, Because if you're in a relationship and you broke up, and how many people have had this where you're not broken up yet, but you've been talking about it. It's come up numerous times. You've had some real fights. You can feel like a breakup's coming, and then someone on the other end overcompensates, starts doing things out of character, and the other person's like, this isn't you. You brought me flowers and candy. You made dinner tonight. What are you doing? Like you're just trying to, like, they won't accept it as real. Because for them, they've already checked out of the relationship. They've already made plans to move. They're already halfway out of the relationship. And the other person's going, well, why? I'm doing what you said that I wasn't doing. I'm cleaning the kitchen counter. I'm doing this. It's because they look at it like it's too late. They've already made a decision about who you are and what you are. And they actually like the fact that they complain about those things because they're familiar and it gives them some power. The classic, you didn't take the garbage out, and suddenly you take the garbage out every day. The person's like, oh, you'll see, like, oh, you took the garbage out? Oh, instead of like, thank you. That's great. It's more like, huh? It's more like shock. And then they'll look for something else to get you for. Social media stalking. You're that person in the cheap seat calling the players names and making assumptions. Don't do it. It's probably the biggest problem in breakups today. I'd have to say social media stalking. Probably the worst. Probably the worst thing. Because it's not so much that you don't see what you see or have access to what you have access to. It's the assumptions you make. It's when you see a picture and you start being Sherlock Holmes. That's a problem. And it hurts. It really hurts people. And then you can't, it's like if you were building a case and you go to social media, you get to interview the person, right? You're like, I got these pictures, I got these comments. Now let me talk to you, right? Let me talk to the accused here. Let me ask them about these pictures and these comments. Well, when you're broken up, you can't ask any questions. It's all covert assumptions. And even if you ask the other person the questions, they want to give you straight answers, and they don't have to. They don't have to tell you shit. In fact, they're going to get a kick out of the fact that you're watching them. Oh, they're watching my social media every day. Ha ha ha. People track that stuff. All right. This might be a good point to switch over to the live stream. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? No? That's it? On a roll here? All right, I'll continue. I'll go to 25. You'll meet another partner like your ex. You'll never meet another partner like your ex. That's a fact, and it's okay. Perhaps you'll meet someone better. So that's the way you got to look at it. That's what you want to get if you're not there yet. That's the narrative that you want to be at. You're going with the idea that you'll never meet another person like this. Now, when someone does this, like, well, I'll never meet a better kisser. I'll never meet someone that cooks like that. I'll never meet. Usually it's a few things that people say you'll never meet another person that they do. It's different for different people, but you know what I'm talking about. The reality is, yes, there's only one of those people in the world with that name, with that, look or what have you. Perhaps you'll meet someone better or equal that just looks different, acts a little different. Is that a possibility? And that's where you want to get. But before you get there, instead of fighting the idea, I'll never meet another woman like this. Yeah, that's true. Because people are used to you saying, yeah, you will. You'll meet another one. It's like, no, you won't meet another one like that. There's only one of those. But really, you could meet someone better. And you look at your life, you look at your jobs, you look at your friendships, you look at when you maybe change schools. Not always, but a good amount of time. Sometimes you do better. Sometimes you go to a new school and you're like, this school's better. Sometimes you go to a new job and you're like, this job's better. Right? And you didn't think that in the beginning. So that's actually a big one. Number 25, the sex life was phenomenal. So why'd you break up? It was everything else, usually. And if that's the only reason you're staying together, it just shows how much you value a good sex life, which is special. But also that if that's the one thing that you keep talking about, what you're doing is you're probably trying to cover up the other things that aren't great. But really, what's interesting is, even though I wrote the law this way, the sex life was phenomenal. So why did you break up? Usually, for men especially, they won't tell you that the sex life was phenomenal. They'll tell you that all the bad things. And then then when you ask, well, why did you stay in the relationship? That will be their answer. So I reversed it in this situation. And the reason I did that is, if you start with that, and that's the only good thing, or the best of the maybe few good things, then you'll know what you're valuing. You'll know that that's one of the big values you have in a relationship. And I'd add, people are susceptible to that one, especially if they've never had it before. There's a lot of people that have had monogamous boyfriend, girlfriend, partner relationships, and the sex life was never good, but they were compatible. They cared about each other. They loved each other, but for different reasons, it wasn't that good. And they might have had 2 or 3 relationships like that. And then their next relationship, it's like phenomenal. It's like the best they've ever had, but it's not as compatible, nor is it as comfortable. A lot of times there's a lot of drama, and the reason for that is, a lot of times good intimacy comes from a little bit of tension, from you not seeing each other, from you having the relationship teeter-totter around. So it is a trade-off, but that's one of those situations that once you know that, you have to realize, all right, so I'm valuing this relationship really high because of the sex life was so good. But there were so many other things that were toxic and bad. This is such a common narrative, by the way. That is it possible for me now that I realize that good sex in a relationship is possible on my end? Because when you have phenomenal intimacy, you're a part of that. It's not just the other person. So somehow you guys matched up and everything went right, and you guys like to do the same things, and you like to kiss a certain way, and the list goes on. Now, when you get in the next relationship, you can bring that in. You now know that that's possible, and it's not just possible with one individual. Now, is it possible without all the drama and the mistreatment or the other things? Yeah. Right? It's also a choice. It's also a choice. 26, water in the desert. Desperation changes actions, and in most cases, those actions are unattractive. Water in the desert. Desperation changes actions, and in most cases, those actions are unattractive. I could say this 15 times to people sometimes. Because post-breakup, some people are just desperate. That's just what it is. They're desperate. This is the whole of their life. They've never been in this bad of a situation. They need the person. They're willing to do anything. I'll do anything. Just tell me what to do. In these particular situations, you actually need to take 2 steps back and go, wait a minute. Why am I so desperate? And sometimes people in coaching calls will tell me, like, they'll say, well, you know, and what they'll do is they'll just, she's so beautiful, he's so beautiful or handsome. They'll go on about why the other person's special, but they're not realizing, like, your actions right now are desperate, right? When you're just giving someone a lot of expensive gifts, when it's not in your nature, when you're going out of your way to be kind to someone that's not kind to you, when you're obsessed with getting them back at all costs, and you're checking all their social media, and you're doing anything that you think would be favorable. When I have those kind of coaching calls, I have a lot of patience and understanding for it. And I'll often say, at some point, and a lot of times they were short relationships when people are extremely desperate. But people can smell desperation on you, just like a salesperson that is trying to sell you too hard on something. You're kind of like, why are you trying to sell this so hard? It obviously doesn't have value, right? It's like water. Water in a supermarket sells itself. You can have there's usually not even specials on water, right? Like, it just sells itself. It's always going to sell. No salesman needs to sell bottled water, right? And it's the same thing. Water in the desert is valuable. And what you're doing when you're pursuing your ex like they're the only person on earth, and they're the only possibility that you'll ever be able to hook up with, is you're repelling them. You're scaring them. Desperation is kind of scary, because people that are desperate are willing to go for the kneecaps. They're willing to do whatever it takes. And that's not always attractive, right? And so if you're at that point where you feel desperate, you need to take 2 steps back, book a coaching call with myself, or talk to a therapist, because it's just, that's not going to work. If you're at that point, I'll do anything. That's not a good place to be. When you're in a breakup, there is no water in the desert. You're just creating that situation. And what happens too, by the way, if we took this a step deeper, if someone's massively malnourished and they have no food, no water for a long time, what do? They gulp it down and they start throwing up because their body can't even handle it. So even a desperate person who gets a date from their ex, they're going to mess it up, because they're going to go over the top, overcompensate, play a character that they're just trying way too hard, and it's not attractive. And really, getting back with an ex, attraction's at the heartbeat, right? And the loss of a breakup, I'm not even talking about just getting your ex back either. I'm talking about situations. Number 27, no contact works on multiple levels, but it has no finish lines, guarantees, or rule books. It's just a way to move on. And if your ex comes back, it's a bonus. And if you're really doing it right, you have to ask yourself, do I really want them back? This is probably my best definition of no contact, simplistically put. And everyone always goes, it's not working. How long will it take? They don't get it. It's not about that. You haven't fixed the problems. Negotiations are off. There's no absolute to this. Oh, usually it takes 8 months. Usually it takes a month. One thing that's probably true, around 3 weeks to 4 weeks, whether you know it or not, the person you're in no contact with, it's probably the hardest time, because that's when you break a habit, is 3 weeks to 4 weeks, which is also debatable. But that's probably one of the things of it. But really, you're doing it to move on. If they come back, it's a bonus. The real no contact isn't like, oh, like in a month, you think they'll come back? That's trying. You're saying like, fuck it. I'm done. I don't want to work on this anymore. I don't want to keep trying. I don't want to be desperate. I don't want to, this isn't working. Let me just start to move on. 28 jealous types can be provoked to call you with a creative post or picture, but it doesn't mean they want to get back with you. It just means they want your full attention again. So this is one of those cases where you think someone put up a picture or a post and they got your attention, or they liked your post. God, I can go on that one for a long time. A lot of value put in likes on a post. And if someone's jealous or just attention hunting, they just want your attention. They don't really want to get back with you. And if you have been struggling to get back with them and they've been breadcrumbing you and they've been talking here and there, and you get these little snippets and it's happening over and over again as a pattern, you just got to go into no contact and cut them off from all social media, because they're just attention hunters. That's it. And then when they get your attention, they're like, oh, I'm good. That was enough for me. Now I know you're a fish in the bucket, and I'm going to keep fishing. And if I catch some better fish, I'll throw you back. Sounds harsh. Oh, I would never do that to anyone. Whatever. People do it. Okay. Number 29, stay friends post-breakup is fine. Just make sure that what you both really want. It's not time to lie to yourself. Okay. I've gone over this many times, because some people can stay friends post-breakup if they're being honest. The problem with it is usually one person really is friends. The other person's like, maybe we can kind of hook up. Now, if you're friends with benefits, or you're friends with the idea that this is what happens. One of the people in the relationship wants to get back more than the other, right? And the other one just wants to be a friend. And that's when it's not the same. It's also very difficult to go from boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, partnership to, hey, this is my friend. So what will happen is, if you stay friends post-breakup, you find yourself feeling odd about going out or being seen together. You find yourself, well, we're just friends, so we shouldn't be kissing. I think you're better off, if you're thinking about staying friends post-breakup, to at least give it a month of not talking. Unless it's one of those things where, for example, I just saw the Anthony Bourdain documentary. I don't know if you guys know who Anthony Bourdain is. Pretty famous. And here's a guy that his job is to go to various countries and cities to try out restaurants and meet chefs and do interviews and things like that. He was away from home like 250 days a year. They had a kid together, and the lady's like, yeah, we got a divorce, but for 2 years he wasn't home but 100 days, and even then we weren't active. We weren't together. That's one of those things. Maybe you can stay friends because you already were broken up, even though you were together for 2 years, right? So there's certain situations. Yeah. All right. I'll continue these tomorrow. Percy, how you doing? How's the music thing going, bud? All right. Anyone that stayed on to that whole rant, let me know if there was one that stood out to you. I've actually highlighted the ones that I think were definite keepers. I'll go back through those. And like I said, this is a rough draft. BW. Man, I didn't go through all 75. I went through 29. And I'll highlight the ones that I think are the most important, I suppose. Start over, yeah. Well, what I could do is I'll go through them really quick. with just the title or the law rather than the interpretation and me going into details about it. So number one, fuck up or break up. The goal is to be a breakup. Number two, problems weren't solved. Number three, temptation is an environment issue. Number four, don't let the breakup break you. Number five, accept the breakup. Those in the chat, please let me know which one you like. Accept the breakup. Number six, identity change changes the relationship. And an identity change changes the relationship. Number seven, they've lost traction. Once attraction is lost, it can't be regained in a day or a week. Number eight, you've lost constant confidence and nobody cares. Number nine, someone has to win the argument and be right all the time. Number 10, finances are an issue. Number 11, they are number 1, 2, and 3 in your life, and you're not number 1, 2, and 3 in their life. Number 12, you are no longer a priority. Number 13, their mom hates you. That one's staying on because that's so true. 14, the one who cares less rules the relationship and the breakup. Number 15, attraction is fleeting. Number 16, scarcity is attractive. Number 18, you are compatible. You aren't compatible, excuse me. You're just running on attraction juices. Number 19, your definition of love is different than theirs. That's a big one. Number 20, cheating is a stain in the relationship that you just can't clean out. Number 21, emotional cheating with text and photos is never completely forgiven or erased. Number 22, you've been typecasted. Stop trying to play a new role in a movie that already ended. That's a good one. 23, social media stalking. You're that person in the cheap seats calling the player names and making assumptions. Don't do it. Number 24, you'll never meet another partner like your ex. That's a fact and it's okay. Perhaps you'll meet someone better. Number 25, the sex life was phenomenal. So why'd you break up? Water in the desert. 26, desperation changes actions, and in most cases, those actions are unattractive. No contact works on multiple levels, but it has no finish lines, guarantees, or rule books. It's just a way to move on. And if your ex comes back, it's a bonus. And if you really are doing it right, you'll have to ask yourself, do I really want them back? It's time for you to think about that. 28, jealous types can be provoked to call you with a creative post, picture, or like, but it doesn't mean they want to get back with you. It just means they want your full attention again. Stay friends post breakup is fine. Just make sure that what you both really want is that. It's not a time to lie to yourself. Percy Blue says, I personally find being friends difficult. Well, yeah, like I said, it's one of those things when you're saying, Luhan, have a good night. Thank you for saying good night. When you go, you got to think about it as an emotion, right? It's like if you're at a job and you had a role as a manager and they're like, yeah, we want you to go back to stocking the shelves. It's a different relationship. It's a lower echelon relationship. Now, if your relationship had already been like friends, that could be a good transition. But if it was never like that and you still have a high attraction for them, then you're just lying to yourself. And a lot of times, especially women, will be like, oh, let's just be friends. And they really mean it because they're already talking to some other guy or they already have something lined up. Now, I will say this. Sometimes someone can stay friends and then they get back together. Depends on the relationship, but in most cases, people are lying to themselves. Girl, I've been broke things off today out of nowhere. I'm kind of just like more out of there to see. So you got a new one since the last one, Percy. Well, here's the fact that you have LMAO means that you've changed. You're laughing about it that hard. Good for you. Your confidence is up. Your music's going well, man. Just finished my next country song. Good, bro. Congratulations. Be sure to share that when you have a chance. And this is a good example of you're dating more, going out more, and even though you're getting mixed results, you're used to it. That's growth, bro. That's big. I know. 2 years ago, I think it's been over 2 years ago since I've talked to you the first time. It's, you know, if you look at music, right? Singing, you get better at things that you do more often. You'll get better at dating. You'll get better at relationships. And then there'll be some ones that'll really knock you down. But right now, where you're at in your life, if you're in your early to mid 20s, you're having a good time. You're in great shape. You got a lot of things going for you. It's not so hard to break up as it is when it's your first love, or the individual had a lot of drama swirling around that, or maybe perhaps you're not doing some things, other things in your life that you're as excited about. And so, you know, it's all progress. And that's one of the biggest things to come back to, is that, like, am I getting better at this love game? Am I meeting better women? Am I improving my filter skills? Am I handling rejection better? And you are. And that's what it is. It's just like if you got better at sport, or you got better at drawing, all those things. That's a great feeling. That doesn't bother you as much. And that puts you in a situation to meet a good one. A really good one. I know I'm on the good end of all this. Isn't that a good feeling? That's a great statement. That's always an interesting situation, a breakup where you're like, I came out of nowhere, or where you're like, didn't see it coming. And those ones are sometimes you'll never know exactly what happened. All right, folks, it's been good. It's been grand. I appreciate you, BW, Percy Blue, Sam Lujan. I'll be on deck tomorrow, probably around the same time. Rye Flint, always a pleasure. Thanks for checking in. Petty Betty, shoot me an email. Let me know you're doing all right. Brand new Skinner, thank you. Always a pleasure. Rob IS, I didn't hear much from you. Maybe you got bored. Rob IS is probably going, I've heard all these before. Blindside, it feels like that's how it always is. But that's how I know it's her problem. Lack of communication on her end. Well, you know what? If you feel better in handling something like this 2 years ago, like I said, it's progress, my friend. You're definitely doing better and better, getting better and better. And that's all you can do, is learn from these things. Right? And with the dating apps and different things like this, you're going to meet some people that you don't know that well. And in the beginning and the dates, you don't have any background on them. And so it can surprise you. Doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means that you just don't have any sort of background on them. It's like you have a dating app. It's like when people go and apply for a job, they have a resume, but you still don't really know the person's like character or how they're going to act on the job, how they're going to act in a relationship, right? And so sometimes this happens and you're doing the right thing. Don't take it personal. All right, folks, it's been good. It's been grand. I appreciate you all. Go to writemac.com if you want to book a live coaching session or send in your story or situationship. Otherwise, have a good one. It's Kurt.